Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I rise this morning to commend the work of a local constituent from Warrandyte in my electorate, Dr Linda Worrall-Carter, who has established and is now not only the founder but the CEO of a relatively new not-for-profit known as Her Heart. Dr Worrall-Carter resigned from a successful career as Professor of Cardiac Nursing and founded the organisation in 2015. She believed that carrying out more research in this area would not solve the fastest killing disease of women in Australia and indeed elsewhere, and indeed a dedicated effort to roll out a series of national education programs and campaigns for women and girls in particular was needed. I ask rhetorically, Deputy Speaker, what is the largest killer of women in this country? And often people think about diseases such as breast cancer, but the reality is it's heart disease. Quoting Dr Worrall-Carter, "Heart disease is the biggest killer of women. Tragically, 1 in 3 women will die in Australia. That is 1 woman every hour. 1 every hour. In the UK and Europe, it's 1 every 10 minutes. And in the US, it's 1 woman every 80 seconds. I think this is completely unacceptable and strongly believe that if you know something is wrong, then you need to be prepared to put your hand up and do something to change it." And indeed, that's what she has set out to do. Not only is this a major killer of Australian women, it involves a huge cost to the budget. In 2014, the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare estimated that the health budget of $7.6 billion, that of that, over 27% was spent on heart health, which is more than $2 billion. No doubt a few years later, it's even higher than that $2 billion. The biggest spender as heart disease is #1 killer is in relation to heart disease, and it's the #1 killer of both men and women in Australia. Indeed, over 20,000 Australians die each year, and it's estimated that 1/3 of this is preventable. That's some 6,700 lives, saving close to $750 million. And what her research and what she's trying to do now through information and education programs is to indicate to women that what we generally understand as the symptoms of heart disease can differ very greatly in women from men. And through her education programs, through her website, herheart.org, and through speaking engagements, she's trying to bring this message to women, not just in Australia, but indeed around the world. And in fact, from very humble beginnings in Melbourne, they have subscribers now to her website and blog from some 128 countries. Not only has Linda founded this organisation, but she's invested her own funding in establishing the charity. She's donated a salary for 3 years and reinvested all donations and funds in order to move the charity forward. The initial interest has far exceeded expectations, and Her Heart is now a global movement with campaigns and community leaders. As I said earlier, drawing on her experience as a cardiac nurse, then educator, and for 15 years as a researcher and professor of nursing, she's able to share not just her knowledge but her passion about this issue to inspire people to think about what is a preventable disease for many, many thousands of Australian women. And as I said, that's being done through a mission to prevent heart disease in Australia, through an awareness campaign to effectively contribute to life-saving awareness about heart disease for women and education for women to access educational resources and to feel empowered and act on this information in a way to change their lifestyle. And in the seconds remaining to me, Deputy Speaker, there's essentially 6 points in that education program which the research shows is important. #1 is don't smoke. Secondly is to be active. Third, to eat healthy. Fourth, get some sleep. Fifth, relax. And finally, to limit alcohol intake to moderate levels. And the more this message can be spread right throughout this country, not just to Australian women, but their partners, their husbands, their spouses, their fathers, their siblings, then the more we can do something to actually contribute towards the prevention of what is a disease which can be prevented in very many cases for very many of our fellow mothers, sisters, daughters in this country.